Hey everybody, Mark from Rams Up here. I have a special treat for you this time. I'm going to run a mock draft here, but I have Paul Walia on board, and he's our less need for this episode. How you doing, Paul?
Doing well, doing well. I hope I can
Yeah,
live up to that, Billy.
yeah. I'll kind of this will be the approach more or less. Is I'll be the position group coach, position group scout as we move through this draft, or maybe I'll be Sean McVay. I'll be whispering in Paul's ear more or less some suggestions. We'll discuss possibilities for each pick, but Paul will be making the pick, and we'll see how that goes. Now, I really think the any draft that we do, and I'm going to put this together right now. I'll be typing offline here, and then I'll share it. We're going to make some assumptions, and I think the assumptions we decided on, Paul, were Coleman Shelton has been re-signed.
Coleman Shelton has been re-signed and is probably going to be given every shot at being the starting center.
And what are we saying about Demarcus Robinson? Has he been retained?
That is officially the Rams Up podcast favorite player. We want Demarcus Robinson back, so we're going to say Demarcus Robinson's back in the fold.
And what about Witherspoon?
So that's an interesting one. So Akelo's up in the air because he along with Dotson are getting supposedly large amounts of money. Last time I read, they were evaluating Okello at like 10 million, which I think is just not even close to being in the ballpark. It's way too high. So we're going to leave Okello off the table for now, and then we're going to also assume that either Dotson or Noteboom, one or the other, has been retained and is going to get the shot at right guard.
Okay. And so interesting question. Sorry, I'm multitasking here. Uh, Noteboom or Dotson in the fold? Let's say that. Let's just put
Right.
it that way. Now, a lot of people that I've discussed offensive line options for the Rams over the past couple of weeks, and I've gotten some feedback, especially on the YouTube channel. A lot of people, a lot of Ram fans aren't thrilled about Noteboom as a
Yep.
starter. I wouldn't really be that fearful of Noteboom as a starting right guard, but I don't know if that's the consensus. You seem to be okay with that idea.
I think I think so. Here's the problem in my mind when you sign a player like that to a contract. So yeah, you can cut him, and you're like, oh, we're going to save this money, cap hit, we'll eat this dead money, whatever it may be. Here's the issue: what player can you bring in? Let's say for half that amount that you're comfortable with starting. That's the question. So if you're saying his play, it's worth it to cut ties now. And what is he now? He's at what's his annual? I think it's 16 million. Is that correct?
I know it's a lot.
Yeah, something in that ballpark, right? So then the question becomes: is everybody comfortable with bringing in somebody 8 to 10 million, and do we feel we're going to get a high enough level of play? So a lot of names have been bounced around, like from Baltimore Zettler, who's been around for a while, but yeah, I like him. I definitely think on a 1 year deal he'd be great. But that's the question with Noteboom. So when you do the analysis, you really have to ask yourself, who do you bring in? Now, I will say this, and Mark knows this. I love drafting guards and letting them play in year one. I think they can do it. We saw that with Avila. There are a lot of great guards in this draft. One thing I'll throw out, I think JPJ could play guard if he had to, and not just dominate at center. I think he could
Now,
dominate at guard.
some of our audience might not know who you're referring to. That's the Oregon,
Power-
or
Oregon
pardon,
center Powers Johnson. I
right?
think he'd be great. Barton, the kid from Duke, I think he'd be great. I think he could start from day one. He can also play center or guard. He's played every position on the line, basically. And
You,
an interesting thing that came up, Mark, somebody actually texted me about something that they had seen on YouTube about JC Latham. I think there was a segment about,
yeah.
does he fit the Rams? And I want to throw this out. If he starts to slide back, I am telling you, Latham can start from day one at right guard, and he will be um, a dominant player at guard for probably the next
Now,
5.
he's being sold as a tackle, though, right?
He's sold at a right tackle. He could definitely play right tackle, no question about it. But we have the Havenstein monster there. I
Yeah.
think Latham and Havenstein together on that right side. If you have to replace Dotson, and if we're not going to go with the note boom route, or if we're going to use note boom as a swing player, tackle guard, which makes sense.
Yeah. That would be an interesting approach because if you put Latham at right guard, in 2 years you slide him to right tackle.
There you go.
Yeah, and I had taken him off my board, so to speak, because I didn't see the Rams drafting a right tackle. And maybe late in the draft to take a flyer on someone. I certainly don't think that's a priority. And if he's a tackle that has limitations, can't play left, I've heard of people drafting him as a left tackle. But I've also read some reviews saying that, no, he's a right tackle at the NFL level. And,
And you know
and
what?
as you
And you know what's interesting? The same people that are saying cut Noteboom want to draft Mims from Georgia, who's played like 4 plays in 2 years.
Yeah,
Right?
right,
Yeah.
right.
So it's like it's a matter of the flavor of the week, right? It's
Yeah,
enticing to get a player
and that,
of his mammoth proportions, but
yeah.
also kid hasn't played.
Okay, let me share this screen. Share screen here. Give me a second. I got this mock draft set up. I may have to make some adjustments on the screen here. I think that looks pretty good.
Yep,
Um, so for everybody's awareness, we will get prompted for a bunch. I'm going to turn this off here. That's getting in the way. We're going to get a lot of trade offers and we're going to ignore them. Are you okay with that?
absolutely.
Because all the trades would involve amassing more picks, and I don't like that approach. I don't think that's number one. I don't think it's a realistic approach from the Rams' perspective, and number two, some of these trades, who knows if they're realistic.
Exactly.
I've seen the 49ers offering the Rams like 5 picks to move up, and that's not happening. you know,
But
so
it's so interesting you say that, Mark, because in my opinion, there's only about 4 players here at 19. Somebody was asking, because I keep talking about Powers Johnson, you saw the post on X that I put up there that honestly I don't think he's going to last past pick 25.
who's that
So
again? Powers
Powers
Johnson.
Johnson, yeah, just because he's a center, a lot of people are like, oh, taking him that early. And Ram Nation, I have this question for you: if a player is so good that you're willing to take him at 20, what makes him a bad? I'm sorry, at 20, 25, right? What makes him so bad that you can't take him at 19, 18, et cetera,
Yeah,
right?
this is the thing is I've argued this for years. The fidelity there may be some fidelity on their draft board that a player is a couple percentage points better, but that's not gonna stop them from taking a guy that's you know what, he's 25th on our draft board. Um, I don't know. I just don't think there's a fidelity there. They will lean towards need. I guess it depends on how you stack your draft board. Is it strict? Do they take into account positional needs? They probably do. But
Right.
this best player available, I don't.
That's
I've
the way
never
to
been a
go.
big. Pardon?
That's the way I go. I always go best player available. I know Mark likes to go based on positional need. I like to go BPA.
Well, I
And
I take a blend of the two. I rank them like that, but I'm not. I mean, what's a position that the Rams might not draft? I don't know if there's one that really qualifies that you're just going to absolutely ignore in the first round. But the Rams have
okay.
done that in the
How
past.
about inside linebacker?
Yeah, right. Are they going to take if I think it might be I forget who it is. Is it
Edgerrin
uh,
Cooper at like first or
yeah, one of
second?
those guys? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they would. Hey, but let's get this started. We could blabber all day long about these different approaches. I'll go ahead and start this. And the other thing that I do when I've run these on by myself is sometimes you get an unrealistic situation. I ran this once and Marvin Harrison was available at 19. I don't know what happened, broken algorithm. But if that happens, we'll probably won't make that pick, just so everybody knows. But
And before
hopefully
we
it's
start, if I were the Rams, I would definitely trade back. I would have 4 players circled that these are the players I want. If they're not there, because I think you brought up something really important, that gap between 100 and 153. is a nice place you could get some extra picks. But
Yeah.
this draft is not exceptionally deep. And I think, Mark, you hit on it. It's really a tale of two drafts. I think from 1 to 100, you might be going like very positional, like you were saying, spot on. And then after that, you might go BPA.
Right. And they are going to, they have 4 picks in the top 100. I don't know if that 100th pick is official. It could end up being 101. I'm not sure.
99, some
But
people have it listed as 99, right?
yeah, but they don't have, the Rams don't have a fourth round pick. And that's something they could use fifth and sixth round picks to move up into the fourth, or they could trade back and populate a pick in the fourth round.
And my official Puka pick from last year, we had the Puka pick, right? Puka came through. My official draft crush this year is Puka's buddy from BYU, Kingsley Suamataya. I love this kid. For those of you that haven't had a chance to look at his tape,
He's a what position then?
tackle guard. He could
Oh,
play
okay.
either. And let me tell you why I love him. So he's got the Puka mindset. They're buddies. The film starts off that I clicked on. He's doing dips and he's wearing like wrapped up like this metal link chain and he's doing these dips with the weights attached to it. So I was already sold there. As I'm watching his tape, there was one run where he hit the hole, running back breaks free, back is going for the goal line, about a 30, 40-yard run. Mark, who was neck and neck with the running back to the goal line? Kingsley.
Oh, wow.
I said, this is the guy that we have to bring on. He's going to be another Puka. They have him at around anywhere from pick 36 to 40. I think he's going to go earlier. But that's my official draft crush for this draft.
Okay, let's get this started. I have this set on medium speed, I think, so you can try to follow along on the top as picks go. But when it's a Rams turn, we'll try to get caught up on who's available and such. So I'm going to start this, and you can see if for those of you unfamiliar with this, you can see the best players available per this database listed on the left. I have it set to display only players available. We can switch that back and forth. So we're going to reject these trades. So many trades.
Yeah.
And see that Brock Bowers now. Brock
Look at
Bowers.
that.
And I don't think that's necessarily unrealistic
Not at all.
tight ends. You know, everybody falls in love with tight ends, but a lot of teams aren't really willing to pull the trigger on a tight end that early. So there's some really good players available here. If I look at who went, some of the guys that went,
Jared Verse went. Yep, he's off, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that all you need to see?
That's my boy, Verse. I love Verse.
Do you want me to filter any position groups?
No, we're good.
So we got Bowers. I'm gonna. Do you want to know who I would pick? We got Bowers.
You and I are probably the same mind because we both smiled when we saw that. Which way are you going?
I think Fuaga is future All-Pro.
Look it. There you go. You and I are in the same mind, baby.
And this is, they have him listed as tackle. Daniel Jeremiah, I believe it was Daniel Jeremiah. I get him mixed up with Lance Sirline. One of them said that, forget this talk about him being limited to the right side. This guy
absolutely
can play anywhere and is an incredible run blocker on top of it, and just a great player. So that's our selection.
That's the way I'm going. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, in another, if he wasn't there, I would probably still pass on Bowers and take one of the cornerbacks, I think.
Yeah.
But
I think theoretically Bowers makes sense, but here's the problem. We saw this, remember, with Jacob Harris? How long has McVay been talking about, getting this like sort of flex tight end into the mix? Has it ever happened? We're about to lose my boy Hopkins, right? It's all been talk. We saw that with Everett, wasted time with Everett. So you could draft a Brock Bowers, but it's not going to happen. It's just, it's theoretical, and McVay has not been able to implement that. And we have seen all the different prospects sort of fall off the table. So yeah, I think Fuaga is the way to go for multiple reasons. Anytime you can get quality depth on your O-line, particularly at tackle, particularly when you haven't seen monsters coming up to the end of his contract, You still have a little bit of an uncertainty on the left side. Listen, in a pinch, I would go with this kid. And the kid has the mindset, all the physical traits,
Yeah, yeah.
the tenacity.
There is absolutely no dings against him. So
Absolutely.
we'll go ahead and make that pick. Um,
Absolutely.
and I'm very happy with that. I think, some would say he's not going to last till 19, but it's possible,
Yeah.
right?
A lot of people are falling in love with him. I think as he look, is he raw? Absolutely. But that's what that there's a great thing they say. When you learn to ride a motorcycle, they want people that don't have any experience because they say I don't have any bad habits to break on you, right? They want you can learn from fresh. Same thing with a young raw player with a good positional coach. They're just gonna sponge up all those good habits. So I would love to have this guy in the locker room. If Puka was an offensive lineman, this would be it.
Yeah, and I think it is realistic because I've seen I don't think I've seen a lot of mock drafts where he lasts to 19, but I've seen him
Yeah,
selected 18 a bunch of times. I think is it the Bengals that picked right before us?
yeah.
See him go number 18 a bunch. So yeah, sliding one extra pick, I don't think that's unrealistic. And this is maybe a dream scenario, but hey, this is for fun, right?
Just for fun play. Now,
Okay.
listen, we're doing this without knowing what some of the free agency status is for a couple of players. We also haven't had the combine and the interviews. For me, that's a big deal. I want to see the interviews. For a lot of you that love Latu, big thing about Latu is the medical because he had that horrific neck injury. So when you're doing it this early, you really want to just get a feel for like who's really coming out. And each database is different. I was commenting to Mark, this particular database, cornerbacks go very, very early in this database, no matter how you change it up. You can take different picks. The corners go very, very early in this particular database.
As we're speaking, I just got an interesting news update from my special assistant, who's
There we
very
go.
good at doing this. Very camera shy, but he's great at keeping me updated. The NFL informed teams today that the 2024 salary cap will be 255.4 million. That's a 30.6 million increase from last year.
Oh,
So
Dotson.
yeah,
Dotson.
yeah, his phone. I think his phone's
Your
probably
phone's blowing
ringing.
up right now, right?
Yeah. Okay, so we're on our second pick, and without doing a deep dive on positional needs, let's just look at who's available here. We
Oh,
have
interesting.
the Bo Nix is still there, Chris Jenkins.
Edgerrin Cooper. I love this kid, but the problem is, unless Shula's really going to dramatically change the Rams scheme, and we saw that when Warner was there, right? When Bobby Wagner was there, it was really hard to integrate that second linebacker because there's so much coverage responsibility on that second inside linebacker. So what I'm going to go with is, by the way, if you could scroll down just a little, this kid Peyton Wilson, people are just talking about him like mad. He has a terrible injury history, but he is just great. And this one right here, Javon Bullard for Ram Nation. He Wow, they have him at 57. That's awfully, awfully early. He is a safety from Georgia, and he played the star position at Georgia.
Yeah, I read a little bit about him. He's
Yeah.
more of a coverage safety than a run stopper type. Is that
Excellent
correct?
hybrid safety would work perfectly in the Rams scheme. We know the Rams do not usually take safeties that high, but I'm just throwing that out there that in the mix, theoretically, he would fit in perfectly for the Rams. I'm hoping he doesn't go that early. I'm hoping that the Rams could steal him a little bit later in the draft. I'm going to go big corner, TJ Tampa, because the Rams desperately need a corner. Because right over here, right underneath them is, Mark and I love this kid, Cooper Beebe. I think this guy is one of the best guards in the draft. He's a top 3 guard in this draft, no question about it.
Yeah, my thought process was if Fuaga wasn't there and you went cornerback in the first round, you might come back and get BB in the second round.
I like
Um,
I like big corners. I'm going to go TJ Tampa.
yeah, and interesting when the Rams hired their new passing game coordinator. Is that his job? Sheenhouse
Hmm.
from Iowa State. I did a quick check. Anybody in the draft that from Iowa State? The only I think TJ Tampa is the only Iowa State
Um,
Cyclone in the top 250 or so. Nobody on the offensive side, but
no,
just
no.
a little trivia there for you. And I did check, and the guy that I have been falling in love with on the wide receiver side, um, my buddy Lad McConkey
Lad McConkey, yeah.
was taken. Where is he? I know he's been taken.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
there
taken
he
already.
is.
Yeah, look at that.
And I was just curious of how long he's going to last. And my special assistant sent me a note today as well because he knows how much I have fallen in love with Lad McConkey. And Daniel Jeremiah posted something on Twitter to the effect of checking my notes on all my cornerbacks, and I keep on running across a note that says had trouble covering Lad
Lad
McConkey.
McConkey. He's always open. That's what you
Yeah,
do. When you do his evaluation, that's all you have
yeah,
to
and
write.
I'm telling
Always
you,
open.
people. I went and looked at his highlights, and I was like, "You go." I encourage all of you to go look at his highlights and tell me who he reminds you of. Just do it and get back to me.
Yeah.
Comment on this video when after it's posted, and tell me who does Lad McConkey remind you of?
Ignore the 84. Pretend it was a number that ends in zero.
Right, right. Okay, so I'm sorry, we're taking TJ Tampa.
Yeah, if you could just scroll down. Yeah, wow. Who else is just scroll down just a tad? Yeah, definitely. By the way, people who are talking negatively about Trey Benson have not seen that kid play. That kid's got heart. Trey Benson is definitely a spot on running back. So these are two players that I like. So I'm already happy. I got two players. I'm a big fan of Walia. I like TJ Tampa. Me personally, my corner for the Rams is Lassiter from Georgia. I love that kid. That kid just needs to hit the jug machine because he's dropped more interceptions than any player in college football this year. But other than that, I love that kid Lassiter from Georgia. So just note that down, Ram Nation. That is a great corner from the Rams. Whether or not they'll be able to snatch him is a different story, which is why I definitely think if at 19 their player or their players that they like don't fall to them, they should trade back and get a couple extra high picks. All right.
And this is what I was talking about. Do they need to improve their algorithm to make sure trades like this don't pop up? Because I don't even know if Sean McVay would take a call from Kyle Shanahan on
From
draft day,
Kyle,
but
his
yeah,
buddy.
yeah. But I think it's kind of humorous. Okay, so we're on the Rams' third pick, number 83 overall. Your buddy Bullard's still there. We
We're on
and
the board.
now we've
Yeah.
already gone. We got offensive line and secondary. Personally, at this point, I would at least be looking at the wide receivers.
Look
I
at
mean, we
you. Mark is an offensive coach. Can you tell?
well, I just think I think Sean McVay is going to be looking for his
Always.
gems in the draft at the
Always.
wide receiver position. And there's a couple you like really. I know you mentioned you like Ricky. Was that you that liked Ricky Pearsall?
I already got his nickname, Slick Rick.
Yeah, there you go. But it's your draft though, so if we're looking at the top players
Wow.
here, there's that linebacker I liked.
A
I don't know
trotter,
for
yeah. His dad played in the NFL, yeah.
we didn't say in our assumptions anything about John Johnson and Jordan Fuller,
Yeah.
um, but
I think the secondary is so questionable at this point that even if they stayed, we would still wind up drafting
yeah,
guys for help in the secondary. You know,
maybe not this early, but I
yeah.
agree.
There's I like the idea of the late round safeties because there's a lot of value late round. By the way, that kid Christian Haynes from and also Dominic Pooney, these two guards, Christian Haynes and Dominic Pooney, are going to make some draft evaluator a lot of money because they are fantastic at what they do. They really
Well,
are.
they're both suggested picks there. I just don't know if the Rams are going to go
Another, yeah,
another offensive line or another secondary player with the top three picks. Maybe
yeah.
certainly
I'm
no
gonna
reason.
go. I'm gonna go. Let's see who we got all because you know what? There was a player from Penn State, Isaac Idrissa, that got taken a lot earlier than I anticipated. I was going to take him as an edge rusher. Can you scroll down a little bit? Because I think there's another one of my edge rushers that might be available. Oh, there he is. Okay, Austin Booker, 108. Nealand. I like all three of these. I like Ellis, Nealand, Booker. All right, hit all. All right, scroll down just a tad. Who's under Kalen Bullock? There we go. Keep going. Keep going. All right. And bingo. Okay, Ricky Pearsall.
That's your pick?
I'm gonna go Ricky Pearsall. Slick Rick.
Hey, by the way, while he's on the screen, I've seen a lot of people, a lot of love for Chris Abrams' Drain.
Yes.
Doesn't he have some limitations though? He's a smaller cornerback. He's going to
You
have to play strictly the slot. No.
I think when you watch his tape, Mark, you're gonna smile from ear to ear. For those of you Ram Nation that remember, who did Mark like in the draft a year ago? Kobe Durant. Chris Abrams Drain reminds me a lot of Kobe Durant, just a little bit bigger. He's still a lot of people say he's almost frail, but watch this kid play. He's tenacious, great ball skills. He gets it done, right? And listen, coming to the NFL, you hit the weight room, you start eating that great NFL food. You know what? Putting on weight's not an issue. I'm going to go with Ricky Pearsall, and I'll tell you why I'm going to go with Ricky Pearsall. If you look at the Rams, right? So we're going to assume Demarcus Robinson comes back. One of the things that's been holding back Sean McVay is when he goes four wide, he doesn't have that other fourth receiver that can really, put, bludgeon the defense, right? And with either with speed or size, whatever it may be. This kid, Ricky Pearsall, from day one, not only does he get open, he runs great routes. He's got great hands. He's got the swag. He'll go over the middle. He can play slot or outside. But I think he's also insurance if King Cup doesn't come back. You got a nice player you could play out of the slot. Watch this kid play. Ricky Pearsall is the real deal.
Okay, I made that selection for you. Ding, your grade point average took a little bit of a ding. Still a B plus though.
These
Yeah,
grades, I'm not too
you
worried
can
about.
you can just yeah I know you can just take a course over summer to get it back up.
Yeah. And remember, Ram Nation, I'm notorious. I take the players that I like, not what's available. I take the players that I like,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah.
Mark knows that. I'm one of those guys. I'll identify certain number of players, and I don't care what happens unless there's some anomaly, like Mark said, where somebody drops big time. Now those are the players that I will take just because of their makeup.
Players that Paul likes a
Ooh,
lot. Hmm.
there he is, Sione Vaki. You got to keep an eye on that. Now this
So
kid, Jermaine
yeah,
Burton.
Sione Vaki may not be there at 150. He's not going to be there at 153. Keep that in mind,
I'm gonna have to
right?
roll the dice because this kid Jermaine Burton. I just want to comment on this. He was considered to be one of the nice sleepers in the draft at wide receiver, and then that incident happened. For those of you that are college football fans, about when he had an incident with a fan, etc., and that really sort of knocked him down a bit. So I haven't heard any updates on that, which is why I think at the combine, this is the kid that's really going to either go up or go down. So based on interviews and performance, because he was considered to be one of the real gem sleepers in this draft. But until you get sort of like some other information, because the last comments about him were based on that incident where he had an altercation with a fan. All right, hit all, scroll to
Okay,
the
we're on
top.
all. Yeah,
Is
and
that
by the way, the Notre Dame running back,
ah,
whose last name I don't want to try to pronounce, is it Estemi?
yeah, yeah.
Estemi? I really like him.
You do?
Um,
Okay.
scroll down, you say?
Yeah, okay, there you go. Bingo. All right, here we go. Scroll up. Keep going, keep going, keep going. All the way to the top. Who's the top one? Cole Bishop. Cole Bishop is another safety. Wow, really? There are a bunch of safety that are looking good. All the way to the
You
top. Yeah, Cole Bishop and Jaden Hicks. I like these guys. Yeah, all the way to the top on
okay?
all. Who's the top
Uh,
player on all? Is it
it's
Jonathan Brooks?
Jonathan Brooks, right?
Yeah, that's never going to happen at 72. Are you kidding me? That kid's going to be gone. So you know what I'm going to do? Look at that. All right, scroll down just a tad, Mark, if you don't mind, please. Just a tad. I'm going to go McKinley Jackson.
Defensive lineman.
There you
Okay, was
go.
he? I remember reading about him. Is he a three technique? Is that the
So,
selection?
so what's interesting about him, and I know a lot of fans are probably, raised a couple eyebrows with that pick. So here's the thing about McKinley Jackson. McKinley Jackson can play the 0 or the 1. I'm not sold on Bobby Brown. I think though if they both went to, I think Bobby Brown, did he go to Texas A&M? I think he
Yes,
did.
he did.
Yep.
Oh, right. I do remember. I think I did. I do remember reading about him,
Yeah.
and I think I may
McKinley,
have mocked him in one of my drafts.
yeah.
Actually,
I love McKinley Jackson for his size. Not only does he play the run well, and I was particularly watching him on the one-on-one drills. Man, this kid's got wiggle. He's tough as nails. Texas A&M does a great job. They have a lot of media on their players. Everything was positive. I watched his interviews. Love this kid. McKinley Jackson's going to hold it down in the middle. He and Bobby Brown, but McKinley Jackson can stay on the field and rush the passer. I'm going to go McKinley Jackson, even though I saw an edge rusher that I love, but I'm going to
well,
hold off.
I like what you've done so far. We got two guys in the trenches on both sides of the ball, two skill position guys on both sides of the ball,
And
one
in
on
my head, I
each.
got Daniil Hunter or Burns in the wings, so that's why I'm not too worried about edge right now. All right, who do we got? All right,
We got a ways to go, and this is where I think realistically the Rams are going to end up with a fourth round pick,
all right,
right?
love it. So two back to back, right? Woo, I love it. All right, let's see what we got. Let's have some fun. All right, scroll down. Oh, look at Tyke Smith. Interesting. Bo Limmer. A lot of people like him. I really like this kid, by the way, Mark. Right there. Smith Wade, that corner from Washington State. Man, what a competitor, man. Really, 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 really nice player at corner. Scroll up. This other kid too, Javian Cohen. What an underrated guard, man. What an underrated guard in
Oh,
Bo Limmer
Cohen's the wide receiver.
from Arizona. If you look right
Yeah.
underneath him, Javian Cohen from Miami.
I'm sorry. I thought you
Yeah,
said Cohen,
yeah,
Javion Cohen, as opposed to
really
Jacob
underrated
Cohen.
guard.
All right.
A lot of people like Theo Johnson from Penn State. All right, Smith Wade. What do you got? Jalen Ray Davis. I love this running back, Ray Davis, but I know the Rams are not going
Yes.
to take a running back that high. Marshawn Lloyd, everybody knows. I think Marshawn Lloyd is probably one of the top three backs in this draft. They're just not talking about him enough. This kid is amazing. I love this kid. All right, keep going down. Let's see what we got. We're at 153, so we got plenty of room. Wow, Jalen Ford. Oh, Mark, there's one of my favorite players there, Trevin Wallace, right there.
Oh, that's right.
Yep. So you got
And
Wallace and Ford, Ram Nation. These are two guys. Wallace plays inside, and he's a smaller linebacker, but he can do everything: blitz, play the run, cover. He'd be perfect in the Ram scheme. Jalen Ford is a little bit more of also plays inside in that Texas scheme, but has a lot of big play potential. Great blitzer, unbelievable blitzer, really talented player. So either or would be great. Scroll up. So we got two picks back to back. So we have the luxury of taking whoever we like. Keep going. Look at that. Jalen Wright at 129. Impossible. Jalen Wright is a great running back, Ram Nation. Circle this kid, man. He is a great running back. Just go up, go up, go up. I think we're gonna go. Wow, interesting. Dwayne Carter. He's another D lineman I like. Interesting. All right. I'm gonna go with 153, 154. Scroll down a little, Mark, if you don't mind.
I'm trying to think of some advice to give you at this point,
Yeah,
but this
I
is where
know
I
I know what's going to happen. Look at the numbers there. 128. A player at 128 when you're picking 153 basically tells you which way to go. Listen,
yeah.
the Rams need so much help in their secondary. I'm going to go with the corner that I have ranked highest, and I'm going to go with it's a coin flip between a safety like Tyke Smith for the Rams. But you know what? I love the way this kid plays. I'm going to go with Smith Wade from Washington State.
Okay, two cornerbacks.
Yep.
Make the pick, and
Yep.
we're on the clock again.
Yep, the algorithm doesn't like it, but it's the smart play when you
Yeah,
don't
no,
have
that's fine.
a secondary.
Well,
You got to run
I don't
forward.
know how their grades work if they're considering the fact that you already selected a cornerback, maybe
Probably.
dinging you for
Yeah.
that, maybe
A
dinging
lot of
you because. Go
a lot of
ahead.
the mock drafts don't like it when you double up at a position, the
Yeah.
way they're set up. And then the other one is there you go, Ram Nation. I'm going to take my favorite player. So we got one, and I also love O lineman. So I'm really debating whether to take Bo Limmer. He would give us so even though we signed our buddy Shelton. Having depth at center and guard might be really really useful for the
He
Rams.
can play. He can play both.
He can play both. Yeah, he's a good player, but you know what's screaming at me? Take the player that I like. I'm going to take my kid, my buddy linebacker, from Kentucky. I know it's a little high, but I know he's going to get it done for us. Trevor Wallace.
Trevin
There we go.
Wallace.
Yep, I'm going to
There
take
you
him.
go. B plus from the professor. Um, so what do we have? This um, panel up here tells you what positions you have selected and which ones you have not,
Yep,
for reference, if that helps.
and there
And
you go.
if you look at that board, do the Rams draft an edge rusher at some point, quarterback,
Absolutely.
safety? These cornerbacks, can either of them play safety? Probably not. Or are they strictly
Yeah.
cornerbacks?
This
Um,
linebacker down here, Curtis Jacobs and Tyrese Knight, also would fit the Ram scheme really well. 167, 173. Just to keep in mind, Trevin Wallace. I don't think. I think Trevin Wallace would have been there at 177. Honestly, because I see Tyrese Knight and Curtis Jacobs there. Between all three of these, they would fit that in second inside that will inside linebacker for the Rams perfectly. All right.
yeah, I had one mock draft where I selected two players from UTEP, which may not have ever happened
Interesting.
before.
All right.
Knight
Yeah.
and the quarterback, oh, I forget his name, but he's rated in the 300s. But I watched some tape on him, and I don't know, I just liked his touch, and he seemed to have the arm strength and the touch, everything going for him. But he's very possibly not even going to get drafted. But I did like him.
All right.
So what are you thinking here?
All right. Hit all. Let's see what we got. Tyron Hopper is another one from Missouri. Really look good. All right, we're going to stay away from tight end because we know the Rams never go to tight end, but we do need to get a tight end for depth. I have a couple of late rounders in mind, so we'll ignore my buddy Sanat there. All right, let's go down. Let's see what we got. Dylan Johnson, the running back from Washington. I like that. Yeah. All right. So we got a good 3-4 D tackle up here, McKinley Jackson. Gabe Hall is another great 3-4 D lineman. That's another way we could really build up our D line a little bit. Let's scroll down and see what else we got. Dylan Johnson would be a great pick. He would be a nice complement to Iron Kyron. Dylan Lowry. I know a lot of people like this kid.
Yeah,
By,
yeah.
by the way, this is the best blocker when it comes to tight ends in the draft. Brevin Spanfort, by far, not even close. The kid is an absolute bulldozer in the blocking game. Unbelievable. He's a great developmental tight end. I'm hoping he's going to be available later on. All right, scroll down. Let's see what we got. I have a name in mind. This kid is a great story, by the way. Cody Schrader from Missouri at running back, and there he is at 177. We're going to take Brennan Jackson, edge, Washington State.
1-7. This guy here.
Yep, Brennan Jackson. There we go. Bingo. We're going to take him.
Yeah, one more position group. That's interesting. A plus. They like that one.
So
I think a lot of the experts and draft boards too, I assume, are putting an emphasis on the Rams need to draft an edge rusher, which
yeah,
I don't know if I'm on board with that. And that's probably why you're getting an A plus here, though. But
yeah.
regardless, okay. So you got your
Oh,
edge rusher, and if we go
Brennan
ahead.
Jackson is a name a lot of people didn't throw around early. Now they are. They're watching tape. He had a knee or a leg injury that really slowed him down early. His production came on late. If you watch his film, he's thinking about a player like Hoyt, playing somebody on the strong side once again, building that edge rotation instead of a magic bullet at that position. We're thinking we're going to bring in Daniil Hunter, Khalil Mack. Think about that now. Now
Yeah,
we're 4 deep at edge. That's the idea, Mark. That's the way I
right.
look at it. Regardless of free agency, the draft helps you achieve one thing. You want to be 2 deep at every position so that when an injury happens, and how long have we said this, Mark, we're frustrated on the O-line, where one injury and the entire O-line falls apart, right? Because we don't have that depth. But
Right.
it's the same thing at all the other position areas. So you want to try to get to 2 deep at every position. So as I'm doing this in my mind, I have the depth chart in my head, and I'm like, okay, who are we filling in? And there we go.
Well, right now, if you're looking at it from that perspective, you have to start thinking about safety,
Yep.
and you have to start thinking. I don't know about running back. Ronnie Rivers, they'll bring him back, but what are
Wait
you
till you
thinking here?
Wait till you see the running backs that are going to be available late. There are a lot of really quality running backs that are going to be available late. You got Dylan Johnson. I also throw out Isaiah Davis. This is the guy I cannot believe is so and McClellan. These two, Dewan Edwards, Jace McClellan. Every mock I've done, they have wound up either in the 6th round or the 7th round.
Okay, so what are you thinking here with our 191st pick overall?
Wow, what are we at the end of round 6 already? Holy cow! Scroll up. Yeah. Wow, you're right. Yeah, it's the end of round 2. And go all the way to the top. And who's the best player they have there? Ooh, Gabe Hall.
Another defensive lineman.
Let's do it. No question about it. Let's pull the trigger.
Now um, it's a second defensive lineman. You're okay with that, though?
Oh,
Is he
totally.
a different type of defensive lineman than Jackson? Jackson, you said it's a 0-1 technique. What are we getting in Gabe Hall?
So, yeah, I'm going to go with Gabe Hall because I think you play a 3-4. The Rams have the conductor. They have Aaron Donald. We have Bobby Brown. We have guys. I know Jonah Williams, I think, is an RFA, if I'm not mistaken. We also have DeJuan Johnson. We don't have a lot of beef up front. Gabe Hall reminds me a little bit of Greg Gaines. He plays at Baylor. He plays in a 3-4. He gets really great marks for run defense. But I was watching him at the Senior Bowl, and he had some swim moves, some rip moves. A lot of times when you watch these D linemen play, they're playing in systems where they're very confined. And what I liked was when he was given a little room to show off his skills, he looked good. He had good feet. So I'm going to go with Gabe Hall. I think we're going to be much better against the run because I'm still smarting from the loss of Ashawn Robinson. So you could see it playing out in my picks a little bit.
Okay, I made that selection for you, and we have 3 picks left. We're at number 212
right.
here. And we don't have a safety, but I don't know, maybe there will be some June 1st cuts and we pick up some safeties.
So I see a couple of safeties coming up. Hold on. All right. Wow. There is one player. Wow. A lot of the safeties have already come off the board, Mark. Shocking. Look at that. A lot of the late risers have come off the board already. There is one player, if you scroll down, a lot of people are talking about that's going to be a free agent. They say undrafted free agent. That's Trey Taylor from Air Force. Trey Taylor from Air Force, I think he won the Thorpe Award, believe it or not. Look at that rating, 337. Trey Taylor actually looks really, really good on film from Air Force Academy. I think he's also, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's the cousin of Ed Reed.
Oh.
So that's why I know him, because my bias towards players that are related to former NFL players. So right. Ed Reed is my son's favorite player. He loves Ed Reed. So that's why when I saw that with Trey Taylor. Thomas Harper is another safety that looked really, really good at Notre Dame, was able to jump down and cover tight ends, etc. But like I said, I'm not too concerned about safety just yet. If you want to scroll up, I'm always partial to veterans coming in and playing safety. Right now, we're going to see best player available. What do we got? Isaiah Davis. Now we get to have a little bit of fun with running back. We got Marcus Rosemy-Jack Saint, which a lot of people are saying is a great developmental. I'm going to go, listen, football is won in the trenches. We only have one O-lineman. I'm going to go with Tanner Bartolini from Wisconsin. Don't jump in the pool.
An offensive lineman from Wisconsin? Come on.
Don't jump in the pool, Mark, please. All right. I'm going to go with, I know a lot of people are still.
So, by the way, is Bortolini, can he play center, by the way?
Center and guard. Yep.
Okay.
Center and guard. There we go. Now things are getting cleared up a little bit.
2 picks left.
2 picks left. We've got to make them count. Click on edge for a second. Let's see if one of my favorite edge rushers is still there. Who do we got? Oh, let's see. All right, Xavier Thomas. Click on him. There you go. We're going to add him.
We're selecting Xavier Thomas?
We're going to take Xavier Thomas. We're going to add him to our edge rush room. There we go. A nice sleeper.
Last pick.
And then click on running back. And let's see who we got. So now you got a couple of things, Mark. You want to have a little fun? Rasheen Ali, a running back that everybody loved. I think he tore his bicep at one of the showcases. If it wasn't the Senior Bowl, it might have been the Senior Bowl. A lot of people are saying take this kid and just stash him. He's going to be a great pick. I'm going to go with the running back I think fits the Ram system the best. And I'm going to go with, you know how I love Georgia and the SEC. I'm going to go with Dewan Edwards. Love this kid. Bingo.
And that's going to do it. Got an A+ for that one. And again, I think that is what they're doing. They dinged you on the edge rusher because we had already selected an edge rusher. That's what I'm guessing here. And if the first running back you select at number 218 overall, and you get an A+. Right. So there you go. And probably we're reverse engineering things.
Another player that Ram Nation should keep an eye out. There's a player that's probably going to go undrafted or very late in the draft. His name is Michael Wiley from Arizona, right? This kid is probably one of the best receiving running backs out of the backfield. And when he gets it in his hands, like on bubble screens, he is out. He is in the red zone, baby. So he is going to be an interesting player to keep an eye out for, that a lot of people, once again, one of these deep, deep sleepers. But let's take a look at the draft, Mark, for a second, and how these things sort of play out. And let's just remind everyone that's listening and watching the tale of two drafts, right? So let's go from 19 to 100, right? 100 is roughly, what are we looking at? About, third round, right? Early fourth, somewhere in there, right? With all the
basically the 100th pick is the comp pick at the end of the third round.
End of the third round, we're looking at, right? So let's take a look at this tale of two drafts. Fuaga, immediate starter. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
No question about it. TJ Tampa, very physical.
And by the way, we haven't mentioned, Alaric Jackson can play guard as well.
Absolutely. So we have a lot of flexibility now when you have a player at tackle that you can count on, particularly as somebody. The only thing that I will say as a person, it's more of a personal thing. And those of you that are O-line coaches, my buddy's an O-line coach, and we talk about this all the time. It is sometimes very difficult for tall players to play guard. It has nothing to do with tenacity, has nothing to do with, just mental makeup. It has to do a lot of time with leverage. When they're so tall, right? And when we talk about knee flex and everything else, it's sort of hard to win that leverage game, which is why taller players sometimes do better in zone schemes because they get to move, right? Whereas shorter players in those power schemes do really, really well, right? Because the leverage scenario is in their favor. So, but I don't have any problem just throwing that out there. I just
right.
as a personal thing. I love Fuaga. If you move him inside, I don't think he'd have any problem. But I do definitely think Fuaga is going to do well at tackle. So immediate starter wherever they find him. Worst case scenario, Mark, if Noteboom has a renaissance and holds down one of the spots, and we have confidence in Jackson, or best case scenario, Noteboom wakes up and decides that he can actually play left tackle, right, at a high level, which remains to be seen, right? Think about Fuaga as depth at left tackle, right tackle, at both guard positions.
An eventual replacement for Havenstein, perhaps.
But the key, Ram Nation, is to get quality linemen early is very important. You want to know why? That rookie contract is going to save you about $7 million per player or $5 million per every veteran you bring in. That you bring a rookie contract in, like Powers Johnson, who can play center or both guard positions. Think about that. That's saving you about $5 or $7 million right there, or even more on a veteran contract. You got that for what, 3 or 4 years on a rookie deal. That's the advantage of taking O-linemen in the draft very early. Just keep that in mind. TJ Tampa, do you think he's an immediate starter in our secondary?
Well, assuming Witherspoon, we don't know about him coming back. If Witherspoon is not back, then TJ Tampa could be our number one corner. Durant, Dickerson, and Kendricks have their moments, but they also have their bad moments. So
let's take a look at what we have right now. We got Durant, Kendrick, Tomlinson. Who else?
Jolly.
Jolly got hurt, right?
And Durant, Kendricks, Tomlinson, Jolly, and potentially Witherspoon.
All right.
And that's it.
That's it. So immediately Tampa's arrival based on size and aggressiveness, right? And ability to, the kid's a tackler too, which I like, which is why I immediately gravitated to his film. The kid's a willing
Oh,
tackler.
we also have. I'm sorry. We also have McCutcheon.
Oh, that's right, McCutcheon. So adding Tampa to that room immediately elevates the base right there. Also, you bring in a veteran. Now you have between, I think Durant can play. There's no question in my mind that Kobe Durant can play. And Mark, we talked about it in one of their pods that Durant could probably play outside if he had to, right? But he can't be a one. I don't think he could be a one, but I could definitely think of playing opposite somebody. But I definitely think Tampa is definitely going to be in the mix no matter what. We bring back Witherspoon, not a problem, but Tampa's definitely going to be in the mix, maybe as one of our might even, and is he not cut out to play the star based on his size? What do you think? He's a big corner, right? So there you go. I like the fit. I think, in my opinion, Tampa to me at 52 makes a lot of sense. So right there, those two picks I'm very happy with. Ricky Pearsall, like I said, thinking ahead, but also how does he help us right now? He gives us a fourth wide receiver. Now look at that wide receiver room, Mark. You got King Cup, right? You got Puka, you got D-Rob, you Ben Sco, Ricky Pearsall, and I think we're stuck with Tutu one more year, right, Mark?
Yeah,
So we
that's
got,
right.
but now we're at least six deep, right? I could even see Slick Rick returning kicks without a problem, no problem. He'll put some sizzle into that game, right? You notice I didn't mention our buddy Trammell. I left him off
Right.
on purpose. So immediately, Ricky Pearsall put some sizzle into that game because one of the things that's hurting the Rams right now is the inability to get the ball downfield, and that's frustrating McVay. He wants to get the ball downfield, and you need a receiver with some speed that can do that. Pearsall can do that, whether it's on the outside or from the slot. So I think he's going to be a natural fit as long as he's on the
What
move.
What's
From
the
the
measurements on him? What's his? Do
uh,
you have his?
that was the other thing. I was really worried in the beginning. I was like, don't take him until like round 4 or 5. But then he went into Senior Bowl and he came back at 6 feet 193. I was like, wow,
Oh,
right? And then I went back and looked at his film and I blew up the screen. I go, yeah, legit, man, legit. So 6 feet 193. I went back and I also watched the Florida games where he took hits over the middle. And I wanted to see if he was gun shy. Not at all. And the catch that he made, that was officially the catch of the year in NCAA. If you watch it, is a contested catch. He went up and got it with one hand. I love it. So the kid plays bigger than his size, so I think he's going to fit in perfectly with the Rams. McKinley Jackson, that's a personal thing because of I think the Rams were really soft against the run. It just absolutely killed them against Detroit. We saw that, right, Mark? We were all shaking our heads that if Ashawn was there, it would have been a different story. But what I like about McKinley, man, he has the athleticism. He's not just one of those, big bulky guys. He's got the athleticism. Now, tail two drafts, like Mark pointed out earlier, Ram Nation. Take a look at number 153. What round are we in when we start talking about that? Now you're starting to get into the rounds of late round 4, early round 5. Am I correct?
yeah, it's fifth round. Should be fifth round. Yeah,
Right. So
that's our
now,
first pick. We have two picks in the fifth.
yeah. So the absence of that fourth round pick really shows because now you get into the mindset of, all right, who do I like and who's going to fit the system? And that's when you start drafting. And that's when the draft gets a little bit different, right? And that's why I went with Wade. We need another corner that can cover, correct? Even though we might be bringing in a veteran, we know that. We still got to fill up that room with guys that can cover. And this guy, regardless of what anybody says, if you watch his tape, the kid can cover. This kid knows how to cover. So I like Smith Wade. That's a personal thing. Trevin Wallace was one of my favorite linebackers. When I saw him, I just said, him next to Ernest Jones, boom, perfect fit. He can cover backs out of the backfield. He can jump down on tight ends. He hits a ton. He loves to get in the backfield. He is aggressive. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Trevin Wallace was either captain or assistant captain. So right away, boom, jumps up on my board.
Yeah. By
Brennan,
the way, just for clarity, I believe the 153 and 154 are the two fifth round picks, and 177, I believe, is a comp pick at the end of the fifth round. Could be wrong on that, but
and the
go
reason
ahead.
the reason we're pointing that out, Ram Nation, is this: when you're picking this late, The names may not be familiar, but you got to focus on the production, right? You got to focus on the production. When you're in the late rounds like this, you got to see who's going to be able to come in, fit your system, right? And that's the key. And these guys, Trevin Wallace, Smith Wade, fits the system. Brennan Jackson is an edge rusher that I like out of Washington State because I'm thinking he reminds me a lot of Hoyt. He's a big guy, but to me, he loves to get in the backfield. He flies off the ball. His motor never stops. His motor never stops. So I'm thinking Brennan Jackson in that rotation with Young, O'Shawn Mathis. Let's say if we bring in Daniil Hunter or Burns, right? Um, and then I just think it's a great fit. He's a nice complement to the other type of edge rushers that we have. He's not like that small, speedy guy. He's a big guy, loves to bull rush, uses his hands really, really well. So, sort of a name that popped up on my radar after I started going through all the different prospects, and I really liked him. So, think about this: we're getting him in what round 6, Mark. In round 6, you're getting an edge rusher that's able to go after it. Gabe Hall, once again, we are a 3-4 defense, so we want to get another nice 3-4 lineman in there. But Gabe Hall can do it all. He can play any of the 3 down positions. He has played in a 4-point stance, 3-point stance. I think he's just perfect. Gives us more D-line depth, which we desperately need. And he's got good size. So I think that's just a natural way of filling out a roster spot. And if you look at our D-line depth chart, we need to fill out those roster spots. So Gabe Hall is a position of need, in my opinion. Bartolini, once again, adding to our O-line depth, can play center or guard. We love those Wisconsin linemen, right? Comes from that. Why I like Wisconsin linemen also, they run the ball a ton. They're usually taller linemen, right? Because they run that zone scheme over there, which fits a little bit of what the Rams do. So it's a natural fit, which is why, if you could tell, Havenstein came from Wisconsin. I hate to bring up the name Logan Bruss. I'm hoping he makes a comeback this year. I really do, even if it's just for depth. So another Wisconsin lineman. Xavier Thomas, an underrated edge rusher. Everybody's talking about him. A lot of value. I think he's going to do well at the combine. I think he's going to run really, really well. One of those great Clemson athletes. If you watch his tape, man, another kid, the motor just never shuts off. Goes to the whistle. You got to love it. And especially when you're going after the passer. So once again, we have these speed rush bodies that we can put at the edge that are big bodies. He's 6'2", 250, same dimensions as Brian Young. Really, really like his makeup. A little bit under the radar. And then, of course, DeJuan Edwards. I just love this kid from Georgia. I think he's as a compliment, and that's the way I see him, perfect compliment to Iron Kyron. I think he's just the perfect compliment. And the other one who is right below him, I'll throw this out there, one of my other favorite running backs. I love that kid McClellan from Alabama. Yeah. So I think the luxury when you're picking this late, when you start getting into the late rounds of the draft, is start picking guys that fit your system, right? So when they do get a chance to play, there's like a natural sort of segue into the starting lineup if that does need to happen. So one of the things about Wisconsin linemen and why Rams like Wisconsin linemen, you have Havenstein, you have Bruss, etc. Bartolini is a tough kid. He's a scrapper. The Wisconsin linemen tend to be tall. They're not these short pluggers, but they're like these taller linemen because they run that zone scheme. I like Wisconsin linemen because it's a power running attack over there. So they know how to run block. That's a good thing. So a little bit of height and then the run blocking make Wisconsin linemen a good fit for the Rams. He can play center and guard. Right there, we got a little bit of depth, right? So once again, you always want to add depth. The NFL is a sport of attrition. And what happens to teams that do not have depth is by the midway point of the season, you start to see them what? Decline. Because now that lack of depth really shows off. Injuries are going to happen. There's no question about it. Right? People forget in that year, I think the year that we won the Super Bowl, what's his name, got hurt. The left tackle, my buddy, our great left tackle in 2001, 21.
Whitworth?
Huh?
Whitworth?
Yeah, Whitworth got hurt. Remember that?
Right.
I think it was Noteboom that filled in. Right? If memory serves me right. I
Yeah.
always point that out to people. Nopum out of nowhere got thrown into the fire. So it does come into play. And luckily, the Rams with that incredible medical team got Whitworth back into the starting lineup, which I don't even know how they do it, which is an absolute marvel before the season ended. So Bartolini, I think, will provide some quality depth, particularly at 212. When you're picking at 212, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Xavier Thomas is a great edge rusher. He's got 6'2", 250 from Clemson. You know, Clemson always has those athletes. He's going to run well at the combine. No question about it. You watch his tape. The speed is there. The tenacity is there. So Xavier Thomas at 217, just another body for that edge rush room. So I think he fits well for what the Rams want to do. And he's not a soft player. That's the other thing. A lot of edge rushers are really soft against the run. He's not. And then, of course, Dewan Edwards from Georgia. He or McClellan, Jace McClellan from Alabama. If they're available this late, I just don't know how, but if they are, it's win-win. Perfect compliments to Iron Kyron with Rivers and now this back. And then you have that back from
Zach Evans
from Ole Miss. You know, you got 4 quality backs, and I just love Edwards' game, and I love Jace McClellan's game. I think it translates really well to the NFL and what the Rams do. I think both of those players complement Iron Kyron really, really well.
And we didn't draft a safety, but the one advantage to that is the Air Force safety and a couple of others. They'll be high on the Rams will be high on their list as far as if they go undrafted, they're going to be on the first flight to LA, I think.
Yeah, it was interesting. This draft was a little unique. The edge rushers flew off the board. The safeties flew off the board. Usually on this database, Ram Nation, it's the corners that fly off the board and the wide receivers. So it was interesting that the safeties flew off this time around, which was really – because usually I get Mustafa at 177 or 180, 190 around there. So I was surprised because normally in that second round, I'm walking away with an edge rusher, like a really good one. So, but this worked out well, I think, for the first time through. You know, still waiting on free agency, still waiting on the combine, still waiting on the interviews from the combine, et cetera, and any other showcase.
Yeah, I have my homework to do. I got to read about some of these guys. I think the last 6 guys you picked, I'm totally unfamiliar with, to be honest. Yeah. But that's why we do this. And Ian and Tom, they're not on board, but you guys have your homework. Read a little bit about these guys, and we'll assess. Maybe our next roundtable. Tom and Ian can grade your draft. How about that? But it looks like I like it, you know, especially the top end, Fuaga and Tampa especially fills 2 needs.
After the combine, I will definitely draft a little bit differently. After the combine, I'm definitely going Big Bang Theory because you know who you want. You know who you think's going to have a big impact. Then you can go Big Bang Theory. Right now, you get a lot of players. You think they're great, and then you see their interviews and everything else. So then they start to move around a little bit. And then we see the medicals come out, which will be interesting for a couple of players. But like I said, I'm a big fan of Puka Part 2, that offensive lineman Kingsley Suamataya from BYU. For those of you that haven't had a chance, definitely circle him. Sione Vaki, that safety / running back. I love him. He's not just a Swiss Army knife. He is a legit player. McCaffrey's brother at wide receiver, I think he's going to be available late. I was going to take him here, but I'm going to save that because I think you got to take the Rams. As we were laughing at the last round table, you got to take either Rice or McCaffrey just to stick it to the 49ers, right? Every pass they catch.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Every pass they catch is going to be worth it.
I don't know if that was part of the thought process. I don't know if you remember a couple years back, they signed undrafted rookie free agent Troy Warner. Fred Warner's brother, and he didn't make it. Hey, good stuff here. We'll talk. So for the listeners and viewers, I will share the results of this. We'll talk about it on one of the podcasts. This will obviously be available on YouTube. If you're watching it, that's probably where you're watching it. But we will not post this on the podcast. We'll talk about it though. And hey, Paul, thanks a lot. I appreciate your time on a Friday morning. This is a lot of fun. We got to do this again. We'll change up the assumptions a little bit next
Yeah.
time, and see how it goes, and do this. Maybe once every couple of weeks, we'll check this out. How about that?
Absolutely. And as the assumptions change, will the draft process change? Absolutely. Right. That's the key, right, Mark? So Ram Nation, what Mark said is spot on. It's like the assumptions really dictate a lot of times what the draft strategy is. Remember last year, Brian Young, conductor, when the Rams selected them, and our pod room especially, we were like shocked by some of the picks, were we not? We were like, wow, they really went in a different direction. But it was based on what they liked, what they saw, and what they needed, right? So that makes a big, big difference. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how the draft scenario changes.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Paul. It's a lot of fun, and we'll do it again soon.
All right, double
All right.
barrel ram points.
Okay. Thanks a lot. See ya.